Efendim şimdi hemen istiyoruz ki biz ilk panelimize geçelim. Bunun için bu paneli yönetmek üzere moderatörümüzü davet etmek istiyorum. Oasis 500 kurucusu ve CEO'su Sayın Usame Fayett'i alkışlarınızla sahneye alacağız. Hemen panelistlerimizi de davet edelim. Genç girişimcilere eğitim, kapasite geliştirme desteğiyle girişimci fikirlerini hayata geçirmelerinde destek sağlamak ve girişimcilik kültürünün gençler arasında gelişmesine öncülük etmek üzere kurulmuş Türkiye Odalar ve Borsalar Birliği Genç Girişimciler Kurulu Başkanı ve Türkiye'nin önde gelen girişimcilerinden biri Ali Sabancı panelistlerimiz arasında. Hoş geldiniz Sayın Sabancı. Lider yatırım grupları tarafından desteklenen ve gelişmekte olan pazarlarda faaliyet gösteren Yonca Medya Grubun Başkanı ve CEO'su Sayın Dilaver Siyet de bu panelimizde yer alacaklar. Hoş geldiniz Sayın Siyet. Ve efendim Kincin.com CEO'su Haytam El Fadel de yine bu panelde yer alan panelistlerimizden. Alkışlarınızla kendisi yerini alacak. Hoş geldiniz. Ve son panelistimiz Ayo Megbob CEO'su No Leftover'dan Ayo Megbob. Evet Sayın Megbob'a da hoş geldiniz diyoruz ve hemen sözü ben Usame Fayett'e bırakıyorum bu paneli yönetmek üzere. Buyurunuz efendim.
Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to this panel. Even though the venue is a bit challenging, I'm going to do something different and leave room for questions at the end. So that means I'm going to limit myself and the speakers in terms of the length of the answers to my questions, just to start up the discussion, with the hope that to hear from you on this. So let me start out with a couple of quick notes, and if you can bring up the slides that I gave you. We are supposed to discuss a global entrepreneurship revolution. So what does this mean? By the way, no one told me what it's supposed to mean, but I sort of understood it. And I asked our panelists today to prepare for the notion of discussing what I think it means. To me, it means not business as usual. It means something different is happening. It means something different is happening that is causing dramatic change in the ecosystem, in the environment. So we are here today to share with you, I think, a few examples of these. I will, with your permission, take maybe 3 minutes and put up a few slides just to give you an idea of what I think of as a revolution. Next slide, please. We started this effort, a company called Oasis 500 in Jordan to begin with, but targeting the whole MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, because, if you can advance the clickers, please, we found through research that in the entire Middle East region, actually Middle East and North Africa, there is no such thing as early stage capital. So can we please just advance? Also, there is no culture of angel investment. Angel investment means individuals. Oh, do I have a clicker? Okay, we'll do it. Thank you. Angel investors are people who invest their own money in companies. They didn't exist in technology companies. However, the region is full of funds and capital, right? So what did we decide to do? Is it only about capital? No. So let's say we created a fund that targets seed, very, very early stage, beginning investment in companies, and provides mentorship, help these entrepreneurs know how to spend the money. Because if you just give a young entrepreneur money and they don't know what to do with it, it's like a hormonal shot. They'll just grow and then blow up very quickly. So what do we do? In an environment, in an ecosystem that is non-existent, we had to start up the ecosystem, and we had to do 4 major activities. We had to do a training boot camp where we train people in all the skills they need. We had to create a fund to invest in them, but couple it with an acceleration program that tells them what to do with it in 3 months. We had to create a mentor network to help people, business leaders, help these companies avoid mistakes. And we had to create an angel network. Now, this is all not a revolution, right? Here is the part that's revolution, and then I'll yield the floor to our next speaker. The part that's a revolution are the surprises that happened here. There was so much demand. I was worried that we would not be able to get 30 entrepreneurs for every boot camp. And by the way, we run a boot camp every month now. I was worried that we wouldn't find 30 entrepreneurs for the first boot camp. By the third, we decided to grow the boot camp to double the size. So every month, we train 60 new companies in Jordan, and now we're going to the region, and we invest in 6 to 12 of them. We invested from year one in actually from the first 14 months, in about 43 companies. 43 companies we already invested in the first year and 2 months of operation. We created the mentor network, 150 dedicated mentors that actually work with our companies. Here's a surprise to me, right? Beyond the surprise on the demand from the entrepreneurs, which I never thought about, right? I never actually thought it would happen. Mentors worked. Somehow we got 4 mentors per company in a region where people typically will say, if you're not family and I'm not invested in you, then I'm not going to help you. That was a surprise to me. It probably was not a surprise to Endeavor because they've been doing this for a long time. Angel Network, we created one, simply invited people to show up, and here's the surprise, here's the revolution. Companies stay with us 3 to 4 months. After 3 to 4 months, we put them in front of investors, people like you. The investors were paying 3 times to 8 times, it's actually 10 times now, the valuation that Oasis 500 starts with just 3 months ago. So these companies, because they were accelerated, have shown tremendous growth in value in just 3 months, right? I'll repeat this, 3 times to 10 times in 3 months. So my quick progress report here, and I want to finish it. We trained 225 people instead of 100. We invested in 34 companies our first year, and since the last month we invested in 10 more. I'm going to skip this one. The Angel Network, I don't want to share the results with you. All the companies that presented got funding. And the team, this is the entire team. And if you notice, I'm the oldest one on the team by far. Everybody else is probably around half my age. So they are young people who are there with very ambitious agendas. 3 or 4 of them were here, so hopefully you met them. And here's a summary of our plan versus actuals. So to me, I'd like to submit to you, this is an example of something like a revolution. It's something I didn't expect. It came out of nowhere. The demand is higher than we thought. The acceleration was much more effective than we thought. And we continue to grow this effort. So with this, what I'd like to do is ask each of our panelists to take a couple of minutes to introduce themselves, and then a couple of minutes to tell us, in what they do, what do they see that is different? What do they see that qualifies as a revolution, as something unexpected, and something that is having dramatic effect? So, Ali?
Thank you. Duyabiliyor musun beni? There we go. Wow, you really have a revolution there, Sam. Bravo. I look. Minutes plus the presentation. First, I talk a bit about myself for the next hour, and then I talk a little bit about what I think I'm doing. Well, I am U.S. educated. In fact, Stephen and I, we went to the same school. It took Stephen about 25 years to graduate, so we graduated around the same time. And I worked on Wall Street for a couple of years, and then again, business school in New York at Columbia. You know, when I was about 23 years old, I thought I was God's gift to Turkey. Because I have great education, great genes, no bad track record. I came home to be part of a family business, which at the time was about 20% of the market cap of the Istanbul Stock Exchange. Still is. But in 2004, like TOBB president said, I wanted to try something on my own. And I was told crazy. I was, at that moment, the most senior family member to leave from such a size company. So I was all over on the newspapers. We had a young son then, who's now 10 years old, and the nanny asked my wife whether I was fired or not. This is something I had to explain at home. Well, anyway, now, since 2004, I have been part of a smaller investment vehicle through which we invest in aviation. We have investments in Turkey, Germany, and Los Angeles. We are also one of the largest consumer electronics retail chains in Turkey. We have a chain of hospitals. We are now the largest cinema chain in Turkey. So we're growing and we're addressing the consumer here in Turkey. Just to give you an example of the airline, because Linda talked about changing paradigms in new businesses, I think we believe we changed them in an existing business, which is actually 3 years older than my dad, aviation business in Turkey. Now, through our efforts last 5 years, people have been positively affected because we're carrying now something like 7 times more passengers than we did when we took over the company. So we're the only low-cost carrier in Turkey. We have not managed to get flight rights to Amman because you have a weak RJ, Royal Jordanian. But we'll get there. We'll get there. So I want to talk today with my capacity as being the head of the Young Entrepreneurs Association within TOBB. And I want to hopefully, there's a revolution, maybe not as loud, within Turkey. So first of all, I start with trying to explain to who we are. We're set up in 2009, and we're now established in all the cities in Turkey. By December, we will have close to 10,500 delegates. And this year, for the first time, well, it's only been 2 years we've been in existence. For the first time, we'll have democratic elections as to how we organize this, so which is a positive step. We have on my board currently 37 entrepreneurs, 36 with my addition, who are actually role models within Turkey for having created value, and they're very well-known entrepreneurs. They're well-known not in name and last name, like myself, but they're very well-known in what they've done. So you talked about mentorship. I think role models are the best mentors, and this is one of the aims that we pursue, to create these role models. So we don't always use the example of the garage and the laptop, because we also have garages and the laptop.
Ali, could we please focus on the revolution side of it? What is different?
Yes, I'm getting there. Okay.
And you have 2 more minutes maximum.
Say it again?
2 more minutes.
Oh, 2 more minutes. Okay. The revolution we have is we have a wonderful ecosystem here. The government is behind us. This happened, I think, in the 2 to 3 years. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but to build the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you cannot just have private sector. You need to have NGOs. You need to have universities. You need to have government backing. And for the first time, perhaps because of this page, there's government backing, because every year we have 750,000 people coming into the job force, and if we can't find solutions to them, this is not a positive. This is a bomb ready to explode. Okay? So what are we doing? We're trying to establish role models, like I said. We know why, because universal solution to unemployment is entrepreneurship. To have people try. That's what I did. That's what all of the 30-some people did. Okay? What we've done uniquely in Turkey, we've had the support of not only the government, the NGOs, and the private sector universities, but we managed to also have media behind us. I even took place in an annual TV show. So I became a TV personality for this. How unique is that?
It's good, but where's the revolution, Ali?
This is the revolution. The revolution is coming. In Turkey, we have more, established revolutions happening slowly. One of the problems that we have in Turkey, again, not addressing revolution, is the fact that the women is not part of this revolution as it should be. Okay, our president alluded to it, and we have the women's entrepreneurs head here with us. We have 72,000 female entrepreneurs. There are, I think, 2 stadiums here in Turkey where you cannot fill with 72,000 people. Okay, so we have now another little inkling of a revolution. We're trying to set up a funds of funds. I think most of you guys are aware of what this is. And we're having a triggering role for the government, whereby 1/3 of the funds will come from the government, 2/3 will be from qualified investors. This is a real revolution for the government, because for the first time we're doing 2 things. We're asking for money from them, provided we have qualified investors. And number 2, we're asking the government to give us the money, but not run where the money is going. This is something that we're not used to in these parts of the world. And lastly, we took part in the Global Entrepreneurship Week. In our opinion, it's a revolution, because we became the trending topic within Twitter. 1/5 of all Twitter visitors during this forum were talking about us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Dinora, you want to tell us in your own words, maybe in 2 minutes, something about yourself and what you do, and then in about 3 minutes, what is it about what you do that's new and revolutionary, please?
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you again for having me, and thanks for moderating, Osama. A bit of my background, I run Yonca Media Group based in Silicon Valley and Istanbul, and I spend about 30% of my time in Istanbul, and the rest I'm based in the Bay Area. But before joining Yonca Media Group 3 years ago, I was at Yahoo, like Osama. And before that, in mostly high-tech companies at Siebel, SAP, in the US, and also did my MBA from the Wharton School a few years back. I think for me, taking the plunge in entrepreneurship and actually taking a plunge in an emerging market in and itself was revolutionary, because that's not what I was used to. And I should also mention that I was born and raised in Pakistan, which brings an interesting perspective, as I am from the region, yet being a non-Turkish executive now operating in Turkey. In terms of what is revolutionary about what we have done, I actually would like to give a bit of a quick history before I talk about the revolution. Long before there was social media in Turkey, long before there were VCs in Turkey, our founder Karim Baran founded Yonca.com in 2004, which was the first major social network. And it took this country by storm. I think it exposed Turkey as a top destination for social media, and in many ways revolutionized the use of this new media in communicating and sharing amongst a very dynamic and vast young population of Turkey. And I would say it prepared the ground for Facebook when they globalized. Turkey became a pretty big space for them, and as we know now, Turkey is amongst the 4th or 5th country for Facebook. So the way we have changed the manner in which people communicate and share is very much revolutionary. Now, interestingly enough, Facebook's rise in Turkey also meant that we as a business had to transform. We could no longer rely on our core product that was launched back in there, but we had to reposition it. So I was brought in by our board to help shape the business and drive towards new areas of growth. And that process has been very revolutionary. Being based in Silicon Valley, which is, as we know, is the hub of innovation, learning about new trends and trying to launch them in Turkey, localizing them. So over the last couple of years, we have launched into social commerce. Just recently, we have gone into the business of social recruiting with a product that uses Facebook as a ways to locate jobs. So, just to summarize, Osama, I think we are the sort of pioneer in terms of the use of social media in this country. And now we are trying to expand the use of social media beyond just sharing of content and messaging and pictures and games. That's all nice and fun, but it does worry me that when you have an average Turkish young person spending 3 hours a day on Facebook and Zynga, that we are not putting the use of this wonderful media to more productive uses. And that's where our entry into commerce, our entry into recruiting, should hopefully make some waves in the future.
So in summary, what is, in a short sentence, what is different here, what is revolutionary, just to make it clear to the audience?
I think what's revolutionary here is how dynamic this place is. I think we've seen this by not our numbers and metrics, but also by the metrics shared by Zynga and Facebook. The fact that this country consumes content, it shares in ways that we don't see in most emerging markets. And I think we as a company played a big role in enabling that.
Okay. Haitham, if you can, please, in 2 minutes or less, something about your background. And then in 3 minutes, what is it that you're seeing around you in what you're doing that is actually entrepreneurial revolution, unexpected and dramatic effects?
Okay, my name is Haitham. I'm from Egypt, and when I was a child, I fall in love with computers. So I started learning myself computer science, and the third research I was working on back to 2008, it was called Kenjin. And the goal of this research is to make a computer think like human. So what we are doing in Kenjin, because it's now a startup, we try to make computers think like humans, and in future we will make it even smarter than humans. So in Kenjin we work in technology, allow machines to understand the web content like humans, and build something like human memory. So this allows machines to think and also answer questions. This is about my background and my work right now. And the revolution in what I am doing is, this is the first time we deal with machines like a thinking machine, not like computing. So in the last 10 years, there is more than 50 search engine companies and information discovery companies started. And actually, none of them was thinking about the real problem of how to make the most out of the knowledge out there. Most of them were thinking about add a source or improving on the Google results, but none of them was thinking about how to make use of the knowledge out there. Today, there are a billion of web pages contain a tons or enormous amount of knowledge. So when we looking for learning something new, we actually open a Wikipedia or something to learn. But none of the companies out there was thinking about how to make use of this knowledge and how to make computer understand it. And this is actually the unique about Kenjin. So we try to make computers understand the knowledge like humans, and they use it to answer questions and thinking. So this is, I think, what is unique in what we are doing.
Okay. And Ayo, same questions to start. A couple of minutes about yourself, your background, what you're doing, and then what is it that you're seeing around you that is revolutionary, especially as it relates to entrepreneurship?
Thank you very much. My name is Ayo Megbokwe, and I'm from Nigeria. I am actually the face of the Nigerian woman. I'm the face of the African woman. Africa is an emerging economy, and the terrain is quite different from what you have in developed economies. I started my business at the age of 39. That was about 4 years ago. And I didn't quite plan to start the business. It was at the time I had left my job. I had worked in that particular place for 9 years. And I looked around me, and I knew that with what I was doing, I would not be able to leave a legacy. It was about the time the presidential election was going on in the US, and I heard President Barack Obama during his campaign saying that the strength of the American economy is in its small business owners. And that struck a chord in my heart. And I said to myself, so I can actually start a small business and it will affect the economy of my nation. I only had $6, but I had my brains and I had my hands. And I searched within me to find out what I was passionate about. One thing led to the other, and I found myself cooking. Even though I started with it was 1,000 naira then, $6 if you convert it into dollars. I started with that, but today the story has completely changed. I also found out that every step you take makes a great impact on the oncoming generation. I'm a mother of two. I have two children, a 17-year-old and a 15-year-old. And it was simply amazing what message my step sent to my children. It gave them hope. It gave them a hope for the nation. It gave them a hope for the future. Today, 4 years down the line, we have two restaurants. We're employing women and we're employing men. It doesn't stop there. Today, I have become a role model in my nation. I stand to inspire women and I stand to inspire men alike. And what is revolutionary about the step I have taken? A lot of people in Nigeria have now suddenly woke up to realize that what we are lacking is not really the funds. We've had aids come from developed countries, but you know what? When you give us those aids, we're like people who are given fish and we're not taught how to fish. When I started the business, I found out that I lacked business skills. And an American company came to my rescue, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs started the 10,000 Women Project, and they decided to use Nigeria as a pilot scheme. I was fortunate to be one of the first 25 scholars, and they taught us business skills. It's something to have a passion. It's something to have a talent. It's something to have an ability, but it's completely something else to be able to run a business. They invested business skills in me. And with the skills I was taught, I was able to manage my cash flow. I was able to relate properly with clients. I was able to network. And simply amazing, the huge turnaround it has brought not just to my life, not just to my family, but to my nation. And this is what Africa is crying out for. And I'm looking forward to the day when this conference will take place in Africa, because indeed, I'm confident that we're going to get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, as a reminder, I expect you to be preparing questions for these guys. I have 2 short questions for each of them, and then we want to turn it over to the audience to ask some questions and participate and tell us what you're thinking. So starting with Ali, what would you consider is the biggest challenge that you faced in doing what you're doing? What's the most challenging thing in this environment?
I think it's really very stalely put, is mindset. In our country, the president of TOG also said, "İcat çıkartma." How do you translate this into English? Don't try anything new, or don't bring something new to an old village. Eski köy yeni adet. So this is, I think, the major challenge. We have not enough people trying, and we have not enough people who realize that entrepreneurship is an alternative. I think that's it.
How do you address a challenge like this, the mindset, which is one of the hardest things?
Well, this is the whole point about putting role models in front of young people. And just through young people, make sure that they understand you don't have to be stuck with the Silicon Valley example of the garage and the laptop. There are garages and laptops here as well. That's the message.
Good. Same question.
And I would have to agree with Ali on this, and I'll take a different stab at this. It is the talent and the mindset are the biggest challenges. And I think somewhat understandable why Turkey is going through this transition. I do feel that there is we want people who work in our offices to question more and to take more risks and be entrepreneurial even in their stable jobs. And that's a culture that we've obviously, I am trained with in the US, but I think that's a culture that we don't have in Turkey yet, and for that matter in the emerging markets. And up until you have that, you cannot really drive perfection when it comes to developing product. You can't drive for best-in-class user experiences. As management, you have to be on top of that, and that is not scalable, especially if you want to grow the market. So I think it's talent, but also training people, whether it's universities, whether in their early jobs, with the right level of skill set, and also giving them the confidence to question things, to take take lead and to drive initiatives. So the onus is not just on those folks, but I think the onus is also on the management. And my request to my peers in Turkey would be that, empower your employees. It's very critical because entrepreneurs can start businesses, but for them to scale and for them to do well, as Linda said, I think Lorraine mentioned earlier as well, you do need good managers. So my big challenge is talent.
So that's another pretty challenging challenge. How do you, in a short sentence, you alluded to training, but how do you really address it? You're running a business, you have to make money, you have to turn around, you have to respond to competitors. How do you operate in an environment where talent is a challenge?
You do that by making it a priority. I personally spend a lot of my time grooming talent. I'm here every 4 to 6 weeks for that same reason, because I think it is our responsibility. Just like we had our CEO spending time with us, I need to do the same. So I think we do, and we don't see that culture as prevalent in Turkey. There are layers and there are levels, and I can say it as an outsider. We need to break those. We need to break those ceilings so people can feel more comfortable and they can learn from you and you can mentor them.
Haitham, again, what is the biggest challenge, or that you face in your environment in trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve?
Okay, there is actually two big challenges. The first one is most of the scientists I met was telling me what you are trying to do is not possible, at least at this time. But I actually convinced myself that it's possible. But it's a matter of how badly I want to archive this. The second challenge is in Egypt we don't have engineering skills like MIT or Stanford, which is actually required to work in such a challenging project. But I started to get the best engineer, and I started something called Kenyan University. We are getting the best graduate engineers and train them to have the skills and the knowledge that's required to work in such a project. But actually, there is a lot of technical challenges. It's not the right time to talk about it. But actually, the outcome is very, very, very big. Because if we can make the machines understand the knowledge, it will not just answer our questions in the cell phones and computer, but think about it in the science and the invention. If we can make the machines understand knowledge like ourselves, we will let machines help us in solve the big challenges like economy and energy and travel, because this will be the first time to make machines understand. And actually, I want to travel to space, so we need to have faster rockets and so on.
Okay, thank you. And I will ask the same question from your perspective, Ayo. In what you did, what was the biggest challenge or two challenges that you faced? And then I'll ask a follow-up quickly.
Starting with a small seed capital as I started, my business initially had no form nor comeliness that anyone would desire me. And so the initial challenge I was confronted with was that of being accepted, of being taken seriously. But one thing I have learned in entrepreneurship is that you need to believe in yourself. You need to be focused, and you need to be confident of the product you're selling. And that's actually helped me a great deal. Now, the culture in Africa is very, very different. In Africa, family comes first. I am very blessed to have a wonderful family, a husband who is extremely supportive. Now, on the other hand, there are women who do not have spouses who are supportive. There are women who have spouses who feel threatened by the progress. And the truth is that in the Nigerian economy, you have a lot of women being the breadwinners in the home. Now, if a woman is doing all she can to cover up for her husband, be there for the children, and the man is not supporting her, it is a challenge. But one thing that makes one overcome that challenge is just keep believing in yourself, stay focused, and then you'll just see the skies open. Thank you.
Thank you. So, to my last question, and again, I'm relying on you, the audience, to come up with the next most interesting question. I'm going to ask something controversial or different of each of these folks. I'll start with Dilawar. You mentioned during your quick introduction, and actually Ali alluded to this also in his presentation and in prior presentations, that somehow Turkey over-indexes or uses or seems to adopt social media technology more than any other nation, including the US, if we think about it in terms of per capita usage and time used, etc. Why is this? What is so different about Turkey?
It's not a very controversial question. I like that.
All right. Well, to me, it's a puzzle. I don't know. I can't explain it.
It was a puzzle for me too when I first joined the company and I looked at our data and I was dumbfounded to see where are these numbers. I think what we have seen, and we have had 7 years worth of data in our company on social behavior, there are a few very basic reasons. One, it is a relatively decent sized country. There are 75 million people. So it's not a small country to begin with. So you have a large pool you're dealing with. And out of that, there's a significant number of internet penetration. So you have about 40 to 45% internet penetration, which is decent for emerging markets. Very importantly, a significant number of those people who are online are actually using broadband. And they are using broadband in households where people share computers. So there is access, there's wide availability of high-speed access to the web. That by itself makes it a large pool. Secondly, and now we are seeing with mobile data, the costs are going down, and we are seeing a lot of our traffic now coming through mobile channels. So those are the reasons that make it somewhat, a decent-sized pool. What I have observed, what makes, and then the third reason is obviously young people. It is a very young country, so obviously young people are using it, and they're likely to be more pervasive users of the web. Finally, and this is more of a soft point, which I think is probably one of the biggest reasons why Turkey is more social. The behaviors that you see, if you will, in Taksim Square or on Istiklal Street or in the heart of Turkey, the offline social behaviors, the culture of sharing, openness, those behaviors I think have transcended, if you will, into the digital media. And that, I'm not saying that other countries don't demonstrate that, they somewhat do, but we have seen that whether it's Brazil or other places where there are similar sociabilities, very sort of heightened sociabilities, they do tend to be more social on the web. So I think the combination of these factors make Turkey a highly social web enabled country.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Ali an even harder question, I think, which I'm struggling with. Turkey is on the border between Asia and Europe. To your west, to your immediate west, is a huge crisis with countries going bankrupt. And to your generic west, all of Europe is suffering. All of Europe is in trouble. Yet Turkey seems to be doing well. Why is Turkey doing well economically in this environment?
Okay. Well, I think there's a very simple answer to this, which is political stability, in leadership stability.
Europe does not have.
Do you think EU zone has political stability? Which part of EU do you go to? I don't know, but I'm talking about Turkey. There's political stability here. I tell you, Sama, one thing. Since we became part of a multi-party system, every 14.6 months we had elections in Turkey until 2002. I'm not talking about inter-party or inter-cabinet changes. So now we have, for the last 9 years, same team focused on the growth, which brings economic stability, brings social stability, and this just helps the entrepreneur flourish. That's how we grow.
Okay, we'll leave it to the audience to challenge that or to comment on it. Haitham, let me ask you a question. We heard you say several times you want to make computers think, and you want maybe even think better than humans. My challenge to you, my question to you is, in the United States, they started the field of artificial intelligence back in the 50s, in the early days of computers, worked on that problem for a good, 50 to 60 years without a major advancement. What is it that makes you think that we have reached a point where you could have a breakthrough? What is it that's different now that wasn't there then that's going to enable this?
Yeah, 50 years ago, we wasn't have good knowledge about the brain, which accelerated the progress and work in the artificial intelligence, especially in the way especially in how we make computer think and understand text. So the breakthroughs that happened in last 50 years in brain study allowed us and others to address this challenge.
So you are coming up with algorithms that are brain inspired, brain function inspired?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The last question to Ayo, and then I want to turn it over to the audience. You shared with us a powerful example of your experience. But what's it going to take to make this spark take off in Africa and in your region of the world? How do you make what you've done repeatable? How do you get more people to do things like this in that very difficult region? We heard about the challenges, the socio-economic and the cultural. So
this is actually in place right now. That is why, I spoke about AIDS before. And I said what we really need in Nigeria is not so much of the AIDS, it's much more of the skill. Because then you're actually teaching us to catch fish ourselves. Now, most of the vices you find in the world today, child trafficking, child abuse, the woman is the first to notice that. But most of the time you have women keep quiet because they are not empowered. Now that is what entrepreneurship does. Entrepreneurship empowers. And now when you have developed countries come into Africa and come into countries like Nigeria to encourage, inspire, and empower, you find out that the whole region is being lit up. And it's actually happening. It's a gradual process. For somebody from the outside world, it's not so visible. But for those of us in the region, we know it is happening. You see a woman, I told you I started at 39. I had had my experiences before then. I didn't believe anything good could come out of me. I suddenly woke up and found out, hey, I'm going to be 40. What's going to happen to me? And then with this story of mine, I have the opportunity to sit down and share with other women who in turn share with others. And so you have quite a lot of our women and men rising up to do something for themselves. And because they see the successes they're recording, it's inspiring them to even do more. And the torch is burning like wildfire. Thank you.
Thank you for such an optimistic answer. Haitham, you had a follow-up?
I want to add something on my answer.
Okay.
Yeah. There's other things than brain study, and we now understand the brain more than 50 years ago, that now we have a lot of computing power than 50 years ago. Now the first 3 computers in the top 50 supercomputers are now faster than human brain. Okay, so we also have a lot of computing power, allow us to work in such a hard problem. Okay, so this is what I would like to add.
Okay, at this point, I would love to have questions from the audience. I don't know if there's a mic floating around. Yeah, please. Is there a mic nearby? Microphone? Thank you.
Hepinize saygılar sunuyorum. Nijerya'dan Ayo Hanım'a bir soru sormak istiyorum. Afrika'nın gelişmesi için acaba 3 yaşından itibaren 15-16 yaşına kadar her çocuğa yabancı dil, bilim, iş ve meslek öğretiliyor mu ülkenizde? Yani gelişmek için sizin 39 yaşına kadar ya diğer çocukların beklemesine gerek yok. 3 yaşından eğitim başlamalı. 15 yaşına geldiği zaman çocuk kendi ana dilini, İngilizceyi, Arapçayı öğrenmeli, bilim öğrenmeli ve iş ve meslek öğrenmesi lazım. 15 yaşını bitirdiği zaman. Ondan sonra zaten siz bu çocuğa para vermeseniz de bu büyük bir girişimci olur. Türkiye bu devrimi Gazi Mustafa Kemal Atatürk ile başlattı. Sağ olsun Daha sonra diğer hükümetler devam ettirdi ve Türkiye'nin bugünkü hale gelmesinde, yani bu girişimcilik devriminde bu eğitim sisteminin büyük önemi var. Sizin ülkenizde böyle bir eğitim sistemi var mı? Onu merak ediyorum. Sorun bu.
So okay.
Okay.
You got the. I
I
think
did.
the question is primarily to you, Ayo.
Yeah, okay. Now, you're talking about education. Education is in place in Nigeria. In fact, at age 5, in schools, pupils are being taught a second language. But now we're talking about entrepreneurship. It's completely different. In the past, we did not have emphasis on entrepreneurship. That's why we're here. We're all educated, but now because we're focusing attention on entrepreneurship, that's why we have come together. And that's the fire that is now being lit up in Africa, in Nigeria. And so, even in schools, it's now part of the curriculum. But 5 years ago, it was never there. But because we have seen the great advantage a nation has, the great impact entrepreneurship has on an economy, that is why it's been put in the curriculum. So we're getting there. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question down here. I don't know if the mic can make it there quickly. And I emphasize again, please make sure it's a question, not a long statement followed by a short question. Direct question, please.
Şimdi ben tabii ki kısa olmasını çok istiyorum ama yine de kısa keseceğim. Ben 7 yıl Ar-Ge çalışmasını yapmış. Çok önemli. Bu dünyanın en eski insana en eski sorunu olan yatalak hasta sorununu çözüm getirdik. Ve bu çalışmamız MIT'yi de teknolojik olarak çok aşmış ve 3 tane dünya patentine sahip olmuş bir vaziyette. Ben prototip çalışmalarını, Ar-Ge çalışmalarını sonuçlandırmışım. Ama bunun için yatırım, finansmanı ile ilgili iş adamlarına gittiğimiz zaman, kuruluşlara gittiğimiz zaman bana şöyle deniliyor, arkamdan söyleniyor. Böylesine güzel bir projeyi nasıl bugüne kadar elinde alınmadı ya da ortak olunmadı ya da yapılmadı. Dolayısıyla ben bugüne kadar bu panelde bütün yapılan konuşmalarda benim durumumda olan bir insanın sorunu hiç dile getirilmedi burada. Burada biz çok enteresandır, çok güzel bir projeniz olması halinde bile buna ortak bulamıyorsunuz, para bulamıyorsunuz, kimse yatırım yapmaktan korkuyor, çekiniyor. Buna ne dersiniz acaba? Biliyorum belki konunuz değil ama başka panellerde dile getiremedim, şimdi getirebildim. Teşekkür ediyorum.
Okay, so thank you for a very good question, and let me, just to make sure for those without headsets you heard, the problem described here, by the way, I would submit, is a typical problem faced by almost every entrepreneur that's doing anything that even smells of innovation, which is the skepticism that comes from the mindset, the skepticism that comes from the status quo, where they say, well, if this is such a great idea, why hasn't somebody else come up with it? Why hasn't somebody else done it? Right? This is very, very, very typical and very standard, and I would actually disagree with you. It is core to the topic of this panel. So Ali is eager to give you an answer. Okay.
Duyabiliyor musun beni? Şimdi tabii Usama Bey biraz hani hızlı geç, heyecanlı ne var falan diye soruyordu ben sunum yaparken. Onun için ben tam belki vurgu yapamadım. Sizin içinde bulunduğunuz sorun sadece size has değil. İngilizce de anlattı size. Bununla ilgili şu anda Türkiye'de bir kere bankalar finansman vermeye açık değil. Niye değil? Çünkü işin nevi icabı bu işi tırnak içinde riskli görüyorlar. Değil mi? Ne tapu var, ne kapalı alan var. Değil mi? Ne kefalet versen kefaletin bir önemi var. Değil mi? Yani patenti veremezsin teminat olarak. Ama şu anda Türkiye'de yürüyen bir melek yatırımcı ağlar zinciri var. Buna gidebilirsiniz. Veyahut da biraz sabırlı olursanız, eğer bunu becerebilirsek Ankara'da, erken aşama yatırımlar, sizin yaptığınız gibi erken aşama yatırımlar için finansman bulmak üzere fonların fonunu kurma hevesimiz var. Bütün bunların hepsi zaten hep bir
temel excuse'ün Türkçesi neyse mazeret girişimcinin, o da finansman. Yani bunun bilincindeyiz, bu zaman içinde oluyor. Bankalarında doğal bir kapı olmadığının da bilincindeyiz. Dolayısıyla ancak böyle cevap verebilirim size. Ama yani şu anda çek yazamıyorum onun için.
Dilawar, you have an answer?
I would like to add a couple of comments. And unfortunately, I don't fully understand your situation, but I would make an observation. I have had the opportunity to advise a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs in Turkey. Been working with Ozian University, and one thing I have observed is that yes, you can have an idea, you can have perhaps a pattern, you are being innovative, but I think sometimes we need to be more effective in communicating what business need are we solving, how are we meeting a market need, and that's where communicating what we call the value proposition sometimes can be a challenge in our market here. And by the way, this is something we see around the region as well. So we do need to make sure that we are mentoring these entrepreneurs who have great ideas, who have raw ideas, and perhaps that they need to be communicated better, where we need to develop that a little bit better into a business plan that is fundable. So again, not fully understanding your situation, but my experience has been that even some of the best business plans, if they were to be, that I've seen over here, if they're taken to, let's say, Silicon Valley, they probably wouldn't enter most VC shops. And it is not something that I'm going to hold an entrepreneur responsible. Frankly, I'm going to hold the established entrepreneur ecosystem responsible. It's our job to mentor these folks to make sure they're ready, for the big league.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up to Dilawar's answer, as someone who's been exposed to at least 350 pitches or investment ideas in the past year and a couple of months, I'll say the following. One of the big things we do in our training boot camps in Oasis 500 is to train entrepreneurs who typically are very attached to the product and very attached to the revolution that this product or this innovation is bringing, that they don't stop to think, how does an investor think, right? What would get an investor to give me his or her money by listening to this idea? And typically an investor does not think like the entrepreneur, so it is very much a communication barrier. And the good news here is our experience, at least in Jordan, and we've trained many people from different countries who came to Oasis 500 for our boot camps. I have seen an amazing transformation across the board that can happen within a week of training, where people actually figure out how to start speaking the business language, the investor language, and that would help them attract capital. Aitam, you had a quick comment on this one, and then we want to take another question.
Yeah, actually, I think there is a gap between the venture capital and researcher and inventor, because you can see in places like Stanford and MIT, people are really willing to pay money for anyone who have a crazy idea. So because we don't have this kind of investors that willing to put money in this crazy idea without have a clear monetization plan or a business plan. So here comes the problem. In Egypt, as a government have a project like give a researcher in the university about 3 million Egyptian pound, but actually it's full of bureaucracy. So we need to have some kind of connection between people who have money and people who have ideas, and especially in universities where there is a lot of people making research. So I believe in Middle East we have to address this issue.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Hi. I'd like to ask Ayo, can you tell us more about the spillover effects that was created by your entrepreneurship specifically in your country? What kind of observations did you make after you started this business? What changed in Nigeria?
I spoke earlier about women getting more and more into business and building. There are different women have gone into different areas of business. Women are into manufacturing. Women have gone into IT. They're so into different areas of business. And like I said, answering the last question, you find out that it's even been put into school curriculum. It's now a part of the curriculum. Entrepreneurship is part of the curriculum. So right from college, they come out with that mindset that, look, you can actually be a wealth creator. And so you find out that at the end of the day, it's affecting families, it's affecting homes, it's creating wealth. Our dependency is no longer on the government. In the past, we used to look up to the government for everything. You know what entrepreneurship is doing to us? It's giving us a voice. We now know our rights. And so because we know our rights, we have become wealth creators. We also have the audacity to demand from the government that which rightly belongs to us. And that's why the government is now becoming responsive. Thank you.
Okay. There was a question behind, second row and then the first row.
I'll ask my question to El Sabancı. My name is Şınar Güngör. And for example, in here, Turkey, most of the businessmen are very successful. Also, they make much money, much profits. But why don't they try to create global, well-known global brand instead of having partnership with the foreign companies? That's all.
I think you're alluding to my past, where the holding that I was a part of had very successful joint venture partners with international brands. One of the reasons for that trend is because during those times, the import walls were so high because of the tariffs. We became, and Turkey is a large market, as we discussed earlier on, in terms of consumption capability. International players came to Turkey to align themselves with local partners that they could trust to manufacture and sell locally. Okay? On the other issue of, I've heard this question before, on the other issue, why don't we create more international brands currently? Okay? I think one of the handicaps is that we have a 74 million population. If we had a smaller population, let's say like Israel, we would be forced to sell what we produce, to market and sell what we produce outside. As such, become an international brand. Currently, we're enough to ourselves, yani kendi kendimize yetiyoruz yani. But I also gave the example that Turks are very successful in buying foreign brands. Okay, the first one comes to my mind is Godiva is owned by a Turk. Did you know that? Yeah. So I think it's a time where we develop our brands locally and use this as a springboard. But the large population is actually, in my opinion, a handicap.
There was a question right here.
Benim sorum Bay Haydam El Fadel'e olacak. Konuşmasında dedi ki insan hafızasını oluşturma ve düşünme özelliklerini yüklemeye çalıştıklarını söylediler. Aynı zamanda yapay zeka oluşturmak üzerine çalışmaları olduğunu söyledi. Ben şöyle bir soru sormak istiyorum. Yapay zeka yaptığımız zaman özellikle insan unsurunu ortadan kaldırmak üzerine bir tehlike var. Biliyorsunuz uluslararası robotlarla ilişkili de böyle felaket şeyleri var, senaryoları var biliyorsunuz. Ben şunu soracağım. Peki siz yapay zeka oluşturuyorsunuz, makineler bizim yerimize düşünüyorsa o zaman biz girişimcilerin girişimcilik ruhunu da öldürmüş olmuyor musunuz?
So the question is if Haytham is successful in building these machines that think, is he going to kill entrepreneurship because he will make humans obsolete?
Okay. Actually, I am not going to build a Skynet. So we are not going to build a Skynet. The machines like a computer, like TV, you can use it in a wrong way and a good way, A child can use the internet to watch sex, but he can also use it to learn new stuff and invent new stuff. So this is the whole idea. It's a technology that we can use it to solve our problem or to make it worse. So there is of course a concern, and this concern was already exists about all the stuff like the TV, the flying machines, the privacy of the internet. So this concern is already exists about existing technology, but the technology doesn't stop at a specific point. We need to have such machine to help us to solve our problem. Okay, so your concern is valid, but I think we have to have this technology to help to invent more popular, more successful product and solve our problems.
My quick comment here is, any new technology people are afraid of. When they first introduced electricity in the United States, which sort of adopted the electric grid before anyone else at massive scale, many people were afraid of this thing, very worried that electricity might leak out of the sockets, all sorts of strange things, but we figured out how to put electricity, which is a pretty scary technology, to, generally speaking, good uses. So I'm more optimistic than pessimistic. Yes, a question from the back, and then we'll proceed to summarize here and close. Last question. Yeah.
Adım Aydın Bandırma, Eskişehir'den katılıyorum. Sayın Ali Sabancı'ya sormak istiyorum. Ali Bey, hızlı balık bir girişimci olduğunuzu biliyoruz. Girişimciliği biraz farklı kanaldan yürüttüğünüzü de görüyoruz. Daha çok şirket satın almaları yapıyorsunuz. Merak ediyorum, sıfırdan bir şirket kurmak yerine şirket satın almanın sizce üstünlükleri nelerdir? Bu konuda görüşlerinizi rica edeceğim. Teşekkür ederim.
Allow me to answer this in Turkish.
Okay, it's by the way, for those who don't have headsets, it's a great question. So maybe repeat the question in English and then answer in Turkish.
He says that I have taken the path of buying companies and growing them to create value. Would I consider starting something from scratch? And what is the advantage of starting with something that's already there? Okay? Yani bunun temel farkı ve avantajı, birinde kurulu şirkete daha fazla para ödüyorsun alırken. Ama kurulu olduğu için insan kaynağı var, pazarı var. Eğer kendi vizyonla yürüyebileceğin bir altyapısı da varsa büyük bir avantaj oluyor. Sıfırdan bir şirket kurarken daha az para harcıyorsun kurmaya. Ama onun var olma riski daha yüksek. Çünkü kurmanın da bir riski var. Tabii yeni kurulu bir şirketi alırken de şöyle bir dezavantaj var. Her kurulu şirket senin vizyonla yoğrulamayabiliyor. Çünkü onun da belli iş yapış tarzları ve alışkanlıkları var. Bunları tarttığın zaman ve işin boyutlarına baktığın zaman bizim gittiğimiz yol şirket satın alarak büyümek diye görünüyor. Bu bir yatırım şirketinin bir stratejisi diye bakabiliriz. İlla bu doğru diye değil ama bizim yapış tarzımız bu.
So with that, just to sort of bring us back in time, although we are on time in this panel, what I'd like to do is move to just a wrap-up, giving each of our panelists a chance to sort of reflect for a minute or so in terms of, what are the parting words that I'd like to have with you. My parting words are, there is indeed entrepreneurship revolution going on, and what I mean by that there are indeed big surprises that are showing up all over the place. I talked about what we saw in Jordan in terms of entrepreneurship, where we didn't expect it, investor appetite where we never imagined it was, demand from entrepreneurs to want to be trained and to get funded that we didn't expect. We also heard that women represent a huge latent power, especially in the undeveloped world, that can actually come up with some surprising results. We also heard about many forces that are forcing this revolution to happen. The Middle East needs something like, the MENA region needs something like 50 million jobs per decade, according to the World Bank. 50 million jobs, new jobs, every 10 years for the next 20 years. We heard in Turkey there are 700 or 800,000 new graduates every year, right? That's 1 million new jobs, essentially. that need to be catered for and so forth in an economy that's growing. In summary also, I found the challenges both unifying and interesting. Mindset is a theme that came up across the board, you know, the impossible, the don't change it, don't bother, you know, different attitudes, social attitudes, etc. Lack of talent, which brings up training. People need to have the right skills to match the jobs of the future, not just any skills. You know, the whole attitude about, you know, society, the environment, the ecosystem, taking a new entrepreneur seriously when they come up with an innovative idea, which is ironic, because innovation is what drives value. It's what generates the next jobs and the next economy and everything we need. So with that, thank you for allowing me to conclude with my thoughts. I'd like each of you to sort of share your parting words with the audience. Ali, you want to start?
Samuel, you summed it up so eloquently. I don't know what else to say. But basically, bizim ülkemizde her şey var. Sosyal sorumluluk projesi olarak girişimciliği önermiyoruz. İşsizliğe bir alternatif olarak bunu öneriyoruz. Bunu yaparken de hakikaten siyasi liderliğin istikrarlı olması önemli. Bizim Türkiye'de komşularımıza göre bir avantajımız daha var. Biz kendi destinimizi, kendi geleceğimizi oylamayı senelerdir bilen bir ülkede geliyoruz. Bakın etrafımızda bu Arap Bahar denen ortamda 30-40 sene, 50 senedir doğru düzgün oy kullanmamış insanlar var. Yani potansiyele bakın. Bunu değerlendirelim. Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sağ olun.
Yeah, and congratulations to Turkey on this.
And I would say that I think we have to have a sense of history at this moment in time. I hope this is not an event that's a one-off thing. If you really step back, it's an exciting time for a variety of reasons. We know what has happened in the region, the Arab Spring, and what's going on. I genuinely believe, and it's partly because also I am from the region and I'm not Turkish, so it allows me to step back more than other folks, is that Turkey is in an amazing place to lead this region, and it's a new renaissance. And in that new renaissance for the region, you know, you guys, the entrepreneurs, the men and women, have a huge responsibility, in my opinion, to play a big role. But as you play that role, one request I would have is innovate this market out. You know, we have a complex, rich culture, civilization going back to thousands of years. We certainly can learn, we certainly do learn from Silicon Valley and other places, but the needs have to be met grounds up. And in that process, Turkey can play a huge leadership role. And what that means is you in the room have to play the role. But I think we have to seize the moment. We have to feel this sense of history that 40 years from now, 100 years from now, we want to look back and say this was a time when new ideas were born here, but they were born in a way that were serving the needs of this market and the broader region. So congratulations for hosting the event, and look forward to speaking to you.
Haitham.
Okay, what I want to conclude here is the revolution is already happening, at least in my country. In Egypt, we have a political revolution where changes is coming now. We had democracy election, but also we have a revolution in the entrepreneurship. In just last 10 months, we had two startup weekend, more than 10 startup applied in each one. So, and we have a lot of events coming like ArabNet in the last 2 months. So we already have a revolution, and this revolution in entrepreneurship wasn't after the political revolution. It was already there. So Intel was acquiring a company, a hardware company, a few months ago. And actually I started Kensington before the revolution. So, and also there is another hardware company create a microprocessor, and it's actually challenging IBM and compete with IBM. So the revolution is happening in the whole Middle East. It's not just a political revolution for democracy, but it's also for entrepreneurship.
And Ayo, last parting words?
In summary, I would like to say that, this conference has been very, very inspiring for me personally. And Africa is really open to business. There's so many entrepreneurs rising every day. And there's so many people in Africa that have made a mark in their different fields. And so, you know, an analogy was made initially that if you remove women from entrepreneurship, it's like boxing with one hand. But the truth is that if you do not consider Africa, even in this entrepreneurship move, it's the same thing. There's so many talents in Africa. There's so many opportunities in Africa. And so my last words are that it's going to be a teamwork. It's a global work. And when we put our hands together to do this globally, we're all going to reap the benefits of it. Thank you.
So with that, I would like to thank the organizers for allowing us to have this panel. I would like to thank you for listening and participating with questions. And I would ask you to join me in thanking our panelists for sharing their knowledge and know-how with us. Thank you.